Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel Dentistry for Beginners. Today we are going to study about the topic growth center and growth site. So, what are growth centers? According to Baum, growth centers are places of endochondral ossification with tissue separating force, contributing to the increase in skeletal masses. So basically, growth center is what? Growth center is the place where what kind of ossification is occurring? Endochondral ossification is occurring, which is having a tissue separating force. By separation of tissue, the bone growth is happening, and thus it is increasing the mass of the skeletal. Now, growth site, according to Baum, growth site are region of periosteal or sutural bone formation and modeling resorption adaptive to environmental influences. Growth sites are region where periosteal or sutural bone formation occurs or modeling resorption occurs, and this all is adaptive to what? Environmental influences. So growth center is place where growth is happening with the tissue separating forces, and growth site is where growth is happening because of the environmental influences. So now, according to Prophet, growth center is a location at which independent or genetically controlled growth occurs. Means here the growth that is happening, it is not affected by any external source. It is just influenced by genetics or it is independently growing. Now, according to Prophet, growth site is a location at which only growth occurs. Means this is the place where growth site is the place where just growth is happening, nothing else. Center, all growth centers are growth sites. So wherever you can see growth site, that is also known as growth centers because growth is happening at everywhere. But when we look at growth site, all growth sites are not growth centers because growth sites are some individual places where growth is happening, but not every growth site is growth center because growth center is something which is controlling the overall growth. So growth center, it is a place which controls overall growth of the bone. So it is a place where overall growth of bone is controlled. Whereas growth site is a place which do not control overall growth of bone. Means at growth site, whatever growth is happening, it is not affecting the overall bone. But whatever growth is happening at the growth center is controlling overall growth of that bone. Growth center causes growth of major part of bone. So growth center is something which is controlling the growth of majorly major portion of the bone. Whereas growth site, it does not cause growth of whole bone. They are at places where exaggerated growth take places. So growth site is not affecting the whole bone growth. It is just affecting at the particular places where there is exaggerated growth of bone that is happening. Now, growth center, location or place where genetically controlled growth take place. So growth center is a location or a place where whatever growth is happening, it is controlled by genetics. Whereas growth site, location or place where growth takes place secondarily. So growth site is where growth is happening, but it is an result to some forces, secondary to some forces that is happening. Now growth center, it is intrinsically regulated growth, so it responds to functional need of the growth that is happening. Whereas growth site, it responds to external stimuli, external influences. So basically growth site, when there is external stimuli is there, then only the growth on growth site occur. But apart from that, there will be no growth at the growth site. But at growth center, it is not affected by any secondary factor. It is merely affected by the genetic factor or intrinsic factors. Now, growth center, places of ossification with tissue separating capabilities to grow and expand. So growth center is a place where ossification is happening with tissue separating capabilities to grow and expand. So growth site is a place where periosteal or sutural bone formation and remodeling resorption is happening, and this all is adaptive to the extrinsic factors in that particular area. So growth center, it is having tissue separating capability and it grows and it expands, whereas growth site, It is adaptive factors, and it is adaptive to whatever extrinsic force that is happening on that particular site. Growth center of growth when transplanted to another area continues to grow. Means if the growth center area is transplanted to some other area, that means it can grow there also. But if you see at the growth site, the site of growth when transplanted to another area does not continue to grow. Means if we transplant the growth site to some other area, then growth is never going to happen at that place. So this is the summary of whatever we have read about in the presentation. So what are growth centers? They are all the growth centers, they are growth sites. Overall growth of bone is controlled by growth center. They cause major portion of bone growth. They are genetically controlled and they respond to the functional needs, and accordingly they grow. So at growth center, these are places of ossification which have tissue separating capabilities to grow and to expand. And when we transplant this growth center to another area, it continue to grow. So now growth sites. All growth sites are not growth centers. They do not control overall growth of bone. They show exaggerated growth at a particular area, and they grow secondarily to some stimuli, which is kind of external influences. Now, bone formation and remodeling adapt changes which happen at growth sites are extrinsic to that area, and growth centers, when we transplant them to another area, they do not grow. So, guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. This was all about growth site and growth centers. Now you know what is what and how we can easily differentiate both from each other. So thank you so much guys. Stay tuned and please do not forget to subscribe and like my videos, and do let me know in comments what you think of these and what all you want to know.